Transcendental Transformation, the place where spirituality and transformation unite. Host Miss Raina imparts truth so that you can break through your limiting beliefs and evolve into a deeper consciousness. As you go about your day, remember, before every breakthrough, there is a breakdown. And now, let's start the show.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to tonight's episode of Transcendental Transformation. I'm your host, Miss Raina, and today is Tuesday, December 24th, 2019. As always, we are coming live from the Sirius Star System studios here in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and I hope everyone has had an amazing week so far. With me, as always, is my awesome co-host, James McClure. And, it is the holiday week, and it has been Yule. It has been Hanukkah. Tomorrow is Christmas, and I'm not sure when Kwanzaa is, but happy holidays, Merry Yule, Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate, blessings to you.
Exactly.
It's a lot nowadays, right? Which is good.
Well, it's the end of the decade, too.
It is. It is. It is the end of the decade.
It only happens every now and then, like every 10 years.
Yes, I know. Only 10 years. I think it is 10 years?
Well, less one day, because then on the new... Never mind.
It might be 10 years, somewhere around there, 9 years. What's funny is that I realized that, I'm a big Harry Potter buff and everything like that, and even though J.K. Rowling's made a very derogatory comment towards the transgender community, but, I realized that in 1 year, it's going to be 10 years since Harry Potter ended. And it goes by so fast. I'm like, wow.
I never even really... Yeah. I went on the ride. That's about it.
Oh, really? You ever watched the movies?
I think I might have seen the very first one part of it or something way back.
Oh, really?
Yeah. One of the movies. I don't know.
Oh, I love the movies. But anyways, it's, so what are you guys doing? What are you guys celebrating? Let us know, and tell me what you guys have done and tell me what your traditions are, because I know James and I always love to hear stuff like that. We always like to know what's going on in your lives as well. But I celebrate Yule. My Yule was on December 21st, the winter solstice. And, it's really, which is one of my favorite times, because not only is it one of the biggest reasons is because it is the shortest day of the year, and from that day forward, the days start getting longer by a minute, and I love that because that means spring is coming around.
Well, you gotta go through the winter. Some people are just starting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the first day of winter.
Yeah, it is, and and I know for people up north, especially my mom back in Chicago, and it's cold up there.
Yeah,
so.
We're so lucky down here. We just get rain sometimes. It gets a little cold, but it's nothing.
We are very lucky. We really are. So, but we want to thank you guys. We know for a lot of you guys it's your holiday, and and if it's not your holiday and you guys are still watching, or if it is your holiday and you're watching, thank you for taking time to join us. We really, really appreciate it. Make sure you hit us up on Twitch and write to us, live chat with us, because we are here. We got Streamlabs OBS going, so we can see it right here. If you guys message us, same on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, and all that good stuff. You know how it goes. So let's get into tonight's show, shall we? All right, because I'm excited. I love doing shows. I really do. But tonight we are going to do the compassionate perspective of self. What does that mean?
Yeah, what is the self?
Yeah, ooh, that's hard.
That's where you have to start, maybe.
Yeah. But what does the title mean? The compassionate perspective of self.
I would say compassionate is like a gentle acceptance with a loving focus.
Yeah, absolutely. Compassion is everything that we need to find self and to have the perspective that we need to be ourselves. And a lot of times we don't have that. Compassion is the most underrated ideal when finding self in any form of religion, spirituality, whatever way your path takes you. We forget about compassion because we're always so focused on love and gratitude, but we forget about compassion. But without compassion, love and gratitude can't happen.
Yeah, right.
And so you can't, and compassion is a form of that, but it starts beyond that, because really compassion is an idea.
That's a good point
of softening, right?
It's almost like the starting point.
It is.
Of love and gratitude.
It is.
Love and gratitude are both very powerful. I see them as the end of the two equations. Like love is looking for gratitude. Gratitude is seeking love.
Absolutely.
It's like it completes the circle. So, but where does that start? Maybe it starts with compassion, which is kind of like an acceptance of the fact that, like, I'm here, I'm valuable, I have something to offer, I'm doing my best, I'm only human, you know.
Well, before you even start getting into, what do they call those, when you're constantly saying happy things about yourself, and that reinforcement. Before you get into reinforcement, compassion has to start with the way you feel about yourself. And I know this is hard because if you guys know me, you guys know that I put my whole life on blog. I put my whole life on my shows. I'm always open on my social media. I'm constantly telling you what I'm going through. And that's to show you the idea of the compassion that I have towards myself and the things that I'm going through, so that you can understand that these things that we're going through in our lives are a little bit less challenging and less horrific than we tend to believe. And compassion really says, you know what, I'm worth the idea of going through things to face whatever it is to go in order for me to find the goal that I want to.
Well, it's life. I mean, you gotta have compassion or your life is not gonna, I mean, it's obvious, it's not gonna be very good.
No, of course. but we don't, right? I mean, how many people do we find, James, that we say that are spiritual, and everyone breaks down, everyone loses their temper. Hey, I do. I've broken down. I've been angry before. There's times we all lose it. But if it's on a consistent basis that if you're making fun of people, if you're judging others that don't believe the same as you, if those type of ideas, then you're not a compassionate person.
Right, because the way you treat others is really how you're treating yourself, I think.
Absolutely.
If you're angry at other people on the out, you're being too hard on yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
Sometimes I've had someone being angry or arguing. I'm like, why are you so hard on yourself? And they're like, what? It throws them off.
Yeah.
But it's kind of true.
It is. Well, because what are we trying to do? When we have to understand ourselves, when we're trying to find the compassion, if we're saying that compassion is a starting point, the idea of saying, I'm worth it, a lot of times when we're fighting, and I posted something like this on Facebook today, I said, we can't change the world by fighting, and a lot of times what we're doing when we're fighting with others, and because we're not showing compassion towards ourselves or others, is because we have this idea of this ego that needs to be fed. It needs to be fed to the idea that, hey, my way is right, and because my way is right, that means I'm somebody.
Yeah.
And it's a false idea.
Right.
And we hold on to these false ideas.
Yeah. The false idea. I know. It took me a long time to understand that, I would admit. I was probably in my mid-40s after, you go through a lot of stuff in your life, and you finally go, wait, I got to figure out some things. And it was more of a spiritual growth. And I realized, it's a little abstract, but there's, some people understand this and some people may not. But there's two of you. There's the ego, and then there's the other higher part of you. Well, which one is in charge? And is it your brain that's running wild, and your ego, and just this child that cannot be contained, or this spoiled person that wants to be king, but he'll build his kingdom and then he'll destroy it, and he's constantly not happy with what's going on, constantly wanting more. That's the ego. That's not really who you are. So the compassionate part, I would say, would be the parent taking care of the child, which is the ego. Like, your ego is your child, or it's your life. Your life is your child. It's not your master. The self is the master. Well, the self is unconditional love. It's the creative force inside of you, like your soul. It needs to have compassion for this child. It needs to nurture this child. It needs to love this child. This child doesn't need to run wild.
Well, I think it's discipline. I think it's discipline of understanding truth in yourself. And we were talking earlier, and I know you have a different way of looking at the higher self than I do. And you were saying something earlier about and even just now, that the higher self is separate. I don't look at the higher self as separate, because that means
that's a good point. Okay,
to me, when we separate ourselves, I always find that our idea we've been taught our whole lives that everything is out of us. The universe is out of us. A God is out of us. The whatever it is we're looking for is always out there. Higher self is up here, and we're down here, and it's dictating what we're doing. No, it's not. That is, to me, that's an excuse. And and one of the successes that I found in helping people as much as I do is helping people understand that it's not separate. Because that's enabling the victim.
It's not separate. It's almost like two sides of like two polarities.
But it's who you are.
Yeah.
Because there's truth of who you are, which is higher self, knowledge, experience, love, compassion, all that stuff. Yeah. And then there's the ego side of you that is tainted from the world, what you're taught, what you're told to believe, how you're supposed to act, all these things that create the chaos, and it gets smothered. Yeah. And so it may feel like there's two separate things, but really it's kind of taking off it's kind of taking off the garbage.
Well, it's ultimately one, because we live in a dualistic world, so I see everything as two. Everybody does, whether you admit, but it's one. But that's the hardest part of life. But you meet those two parts in the middle. Yeah. The middle is your life. This is the life situation. Your ego's going through it, your personality, but your higher self is in there too. And it's just, this is it. So.
But we're taught these things, and that's the funny thing is, it's because people have asked me that. They're like, Miss Raina, if you say everything's one, how can something be dualistic? And absolutely, but in the same sense, the yin and yang is one, but it's also dualistic. Yes, so both. It is. No, it is both. You have yin, which is its separate entity, and it is yang, and both forces drive each other and use each other to balance out, and that's the symbol of yin yang in the Chinese philosophy. But the circle around it means it's one.
Right, but two equals one is what it really means.
Yeah,
and that's a deep
leap is.
It's the leap of faith. It's the believing and knowing and accepting without controlling.
It is.
Two does equal one, and one is the ultimate, but as our minds see it, it's two, at least. Yeah. well, or more.
but that's the thing is people look. I want you guys to stop searching outward for answers for yourself, because truth be known, nobody can tell you what it is you're looking for, where to go. You could read all the books, and I'm going to tell you the truth about spirituality is most people who write the books don't have an understanding of it at all. What they do is they just hear the same information so much they accept it as truth, even if it's wrong. They do this in medicine too, and they pass it down as if they have the wisdom, and they're passing down the same misinformation. And that's why you read 1,000 books, and maybe you have little tidbits here and there, but your life is still chaotic because you're learning from things that have broken ideas from people that don't have an understanding of the ideas of these values.
Right.
And so how can you learn something if the person teaching you it doesn't understand it themselves?
You'll get someone that has studied 7 different areas, and then they'll synthesize the best parts, the stuff that worked for them, resonated, and they'll make a new label for it and say, this is my own little medical, mental, philosophical, self-help science, or whatever.
Absolutely. Absolutely, you're right.
And they'll write a good book with a good title, and it's brilliant. Yeah. But all it is just bits and pieces of stuff that's already there. You have to understand that, that it's a marketing thing.
And most people don't. I mean, most people don't understand that.
Right, and it can help you, but there's ways, like you're saying, the simplicity.
It is, big time.
Simplicity, mindfulness.
That's the number one thing, and I'm glad you said that, because people do. You try to go out and you try to think that there's a higher self and a God and a universe controlling and dictating you, and then you think that, I'm going to read this book and take this class and take this, yoga and all these different things, and all these things, all these thousands of things are going to bring me simplicity, but it doesn't, because all you're doing is cluttering. It's like women, and I know you'll get this symbolism, but it's like constantly buying clothes and buying different outfits to mix and match. Eventually you have so much in your closet that you don't know what to pick from. It doesn't mean those information aren't good, but
it's like you're trying to cook this great meal for in the future when these guests are going to arrive, or you're finally going to eat. It's going to be perfect. Meanwhile, your whole life is just passing you by, and this pot is getting full of just all kinds of weird stuff that's kind of clashing.
Exactly,
with,
same
you know,
thing. Yeah,
like,
exactly.
You need to dump it and maybe keep some of the liquid, maybe.
Well, but absolutely.
And get rid of all those ingredients and just what?
You know, in Whole Foods over here by my house, the chicken noodle soup, everyone goes in and takes all the chunks out of it and leaves the liquid, and it's like this much liquid, and everyone scoops it, like to the point where they actually started putting hardly anything in it, and it was just liquid and like little pieces of chicken, you know, little slivers of noodles.
I saw a guy doing that with it was like crab soup or something, bisque, or I don't know what it was, but he was doing that, and he spent like 5 or 10 minutes just doing that, building 2 bowls or 2 plates or whatever. And that, I was kind of irritated because I wanted some, but by the time I was next in line.
But that tells you where people are at, because what they're saying, and subconsciously, and you can tell like a lot about people by the way they react, by what they say, and how they do things. And people who literally take stuff, all the good stuff, are telling you how selfish they are, that they're taking all the good parts and they don't care about anybody else because they want this, because it's going to bring them comfort. This is the same point in life that you're trying to do, because you're trying to find comfort, and so you're grasping at all the pieces of the chicken noodle and all the chicken chunks and everything like that, thinking that it's going to bring you comfort.
Well, yeah, you're going outside of your brain to fix an emotion of satisfaction. Which, you know, I'd say smoking. That's where it started with me, probably. And then I realized, wait, instead of smoking, I could run or I could breathe, you know, and things like that.
Yes.
But you want this quick fix, and as soon as you wake up in the morning, usually you're like, I gotta brush my teeth, I gotta get water, I gotta get but you're constantly seeking the next fix.
Yes, you are.
And your brain never quite gets there. By the end of the day, you're like, I wasn't completely there.
No. Well,
the day went so fast.
Because it's routine. I mean, your brain is associated. I mean, one of the reasons why I don't work 9 to 5 jobs is, one, because I don't like it, but 2, because it is such a demanding physical taxation on your body. I mean, people like they're doing studies just eliminating one day in China. Microsoft took in China. They eliminated one day. They said, okay, for a whole month, we're going to eliminate Friday. And so from Monday through Thursday, you're going to work and you're going to get through. In just 1 month, production went up 40%. Wow. 40%. That's amazing. And that tells you how taxing the 9 to 5 job is, because what do you do when you get off work? You go right to the kava bar to de-stress, because kava, and that's
I did.
That's what I'm saying. But so did I.
I quit about a week ago.
Okay, but that's what I'm saying. We all have our habits, because that shows what we're doing. Mm-hmm. Because we're telling ourselves as a child, what did mom and dad tell you? As a child,
work.
Yeah. When I was your age, you lazy kids, you know, I walked to school with one leg. My leg got numbed off of frostbite. I worked for pennies.
Life equals work, and play equals, you know, if you're good, and parents approve, you can play.
Yes.
Kind of like that. Like a child should be a child. You know, they should be carefree and just play. We used to get to do that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know. And children are attacked with so many things from the outside. Like, we're talking about issues, or they're having to deal with issues that adults, you know, have to also do. They're not ready for it.
No.
These complex things like image and what you're wearing and just all that.
But I want to tell them. I want to tell everyone who's listening that you're still a child inside. No matter how old you get, you always have a child inside you. And that child is the cause of all the chaos, or could be the cause of all the love that you're looking for in your life. And that's hard for a lot of people to understand, because, you know, we're told we're supposed to grow up. Hey, I'm 42, or gonna be, but I still have a few weeks. I'm not gonna jump the gun. But hey, I'm 41, and, you know, you're supposed to be doing this, this, and this by now. You're 42, and you know, you're supposed to be doing this, and you're not supposed to be acting this way. And people, even when we go out, I hear people say, "Oh, look at how they're acting. They're way older than us." And it's like, who cares if they're having fun and having a good time?
Finally, you figure out there's part of life. I would say, hopefully, you figure out it doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't.
You know what you can do when you need to do it, when it's appropriate.
No. So let's get back, because I know we got off track a little. I mean, everything's still tied into our subject.
Yeah.
But, so we're trying to find, ourself. And so we start with compassion. We start with the idea of saying, hey, you know what? I need to start taking better care of myself. I need to start showing myself that I'm worth all this effort. Because let me tell you something, finding yourself is very, very hard, very, very painful, and years of work. And I know that sounds like Debbie Downer, but it's the truth. It's almost like a lifelong type of thing, each and every lifetime. But it doesn't seem like it, because when you get to a certain point, it becomes habit and repetitive to the point where your body's just like, oh, boom, okay, here's the situation, boom, and you know how to handle it. And life doesn't become so stressful. So that's the plus side to it.
Yeah.
So what do you got, James, for us?
Well, we were talking about mindfulness in a way. Like what are you thinking about? What is your brain is like? There was a book about with NLP, one of the first books. It says, who's driving the bus? In other words, is your brain running wild, or are you directing it? Are you helping to control your own thoughts? Your thoughts may not be able to be controlled, but they can be viewed from, I'm using the word again, the higher self. But that part of mindfulness is also accepting what you're thinking, the fact that it's running.
Yeah.
And accepting it instead of trying to fight it and try to, appease it or satisfy. Oh, like I'm hungry, I gotta get something. And you're in a hurry, like you're like a victim. You gotta really kind of take charge. I mean, you're the parent. Like I said, this is, you take care of the child.
Take responsibility of yourself. Absolutely.
And don't be so hard as the parent. I mean, the parent, if you truly are very wise on the inside. You know everything. Like you're saying earlier, you don't need all the books.
No, you don't.
You really know. You do. As soon as you got control of what your emotions are and what drives them. I think that's the hardest part. It really is. I think everybody's life is dictated by
absolutely
emotions. So
it is, and that's because you lack discipline and you lack self-control and you lack the idea of responsibility. And and that's the number one thing. Responsibility is because you're talking about mindfulness. If you're responsible of yourself, that means you become mindful, because that means like, hey, you know what? Maybe I said that kind of harsh. Maybe I don't have to say everything where, if people don't like it, I don't care. It starts changing to this idea of saying, you know what? I don't have to be, what's the word where you have to politically correct. I don't have to be politically correct, but, I can still learn to say and do what I need to do without bulldozing everybody.
Right. In other words, and that comes with, we talked before about listening instead of speaking.
Yeah.
Sometimes that comes, when you listen, you can observe and you can see yourself in a way in the outside world. Because there's lots of beliefs, which I believe is that everything that you see is a reflection of you.
Absolutely. That's 100%.
So these are pieces of you everywhere.
Absolutely.
So if you treat those pieces with compassion, then you're also treating that part of you with compassion.
And people hate that. Like when I get clients in this door right at that table right there, people hate that because they're always like, well, I'm not attracting this. I'm like, it's not about attraction. It is you. If you are an angry person, you're going to find angry people, and that is going to be all you see. If you are a victim, you're going to see injustice in the world, and that's all you're going to see. If you are, if you're helpless and stuff, that's all you're going to see. You're going to see people doing things. And so it's always this idea that if you love yourself, yes, no matter how much you love yourself, how much you find yourself, you're always going to run into people that are mean. You're always going to run into people that are going to be rude, and that's just life.
It's weird how that works, but it's true.
It is. But it's the way you handle it and the way you react to it, which tells you if you're really going towards yourself. Because the self is an understanding of the world. If you understand why you act the way you do, hey, when I was mad this way, it was because I was hurt. I really didn't mean to act and be mean to that person and be snappy, but I was in an emotional state and I let it out. Well, hey, other people are going through that too. So when people get snappy, you don't react so hard anymore because you realize, hey, you know what? They're probably going through something, and even though it had nothing to do with me, and then you kind of it changes you.
Right. Well, that's compassion right there. Yeah.
It is.
You say, well, you don't know their story.
It is.
You know, and of course, a lot of times they'll tell you their story.
Yeah.
But
oh yeah, yeah. But that's part of it.
And
that's part of it.
You know, that's her. That's the child speaking out.
Yes.
The child becomes the beast.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, two people have a big argument. It's the beast that comes out.
And we all lose control. You must have compassion, because even as old as I am, and I still will falter into human existence. Like, I am a human. I will still have human emotions. I will still sometimes lose it. There's some times where I have a line, people. I really do. I will always be compassionate. Like, even afterward. But there are times I stand up for myself. There are times Miss Raina doesn't just say, "Oh, hugs and kisses," and that there are times, like today, there was an incident at my house with the neighbors that put dog poop on my back patio, and I had the cops here. We had a nice little confrontation, because there is a point of understanding self and having compassion where you actually have to stand up for yourself too. So it's not always like, "Oh, okay, I wish you well, see you later."
Hey, Merry Christmas.
There's a whole balance of yin and yang to where you engage and where you disengage, because you got to know where to pick your battles and kind of say, is this a point where I need to stand up, or is it a point where I just need to say, you know, if they're going through something, they haven't, you know, whatever is it, you know.
Yeah, and like you said, there's don't be so hard on yourself, but also, yes, be hard on yourself, but gently, as if you are kind of like a child. You're a child of the universe. That sounds like cliche, but we're just growing. We're just all trying to grow up, and we're just children. But be nice to yourself first. Accept your limitations. Build from there with an open, you know, heart.
Limitations. I like that. We're going to get into that soon. Yeah, because that is huge. But you know, but you know, people have to. You need to be hard on yourself as far as the idea of being compassionate towards yourself, and that sounds contradictory. Like, how can I be compassionate hard? But I mean, like, you need to really want it. Be hard on yourself as far as, like, you know what, I'm really worth this. I'm really worth the fight. I'm really worth the love. I'm really worth having the best friends around. I'm really worth having the job that I want. I'm really worth getting paid what I want. I'm really worth all the things that I want, especially finding myself. That should, over everything else, family, kids, you know, husbands, wives, jobs, money, cars. The number one thing you should have the most passion for is finding you.
Right. Then that's authentic motivation then, when you're doing it, you know, out of self-love, because the self-love spreads outwards.
Absolutely.
That's the best motivation.
Absolutely. So, all right, guys, we're going to take a break, and we'll be right back after these messages from the life of Raina.
A message from the life of Raina. We live in a world faced with many tough challenges. Our lives become chaotic and filled with disaster ever so quickly, most of the time before we even realize. Our issues beat down our mental mindset, and an imbalance of emotions become prevalent. The life of Raina is dedicated to helping people on the deepest spiritual level. Miss Raina, the creator of Transcendental Development and Growth, works on your core issues and finds the solutions which allow you to break free from the emotional bondages of life, helping you achieve the life you've always wanted to live. Isn't it time that you lived life for you? Call the Life of Raina, 561-846-2190, and schedule your appointment today. That's 561-846-2190. Or email thelifeofraina@icloud.com.
All right, everybody, we are back. If you're just joining us, you're here at Transcendental Transformation. I'm the host, Miss Raina, and this is my co-host, James McClure. And we are talking about the compassionate perspective of self. And right before we got into the break, you brought up a topic that I absolutely love. You can see it in my face. I love this topic.
Limitations.
Yes, limitation. Why do you think I love limitations so much?
Maybe you're good at pointing that out to others. No, I'm kidding.
Let's see.
I remember my dad telling me when I was young, I was asking him something like, how do you know when you're grown up, or when do you say you're an adult, or what is life all about, or how can you be happy? I don't remember what the question was. But I remember he said, I think he said, 1 is you find your passion, 2 you accept your limitations. And I thought, what why is he selling out that, like, your limitations? It sounds like you're selling out. Like, does that mean you're going to just work for a company and you get a house and a car? And I said, and you're limited and you can't improve yourself and you have these weaknesses. And then it's a deeper meaning. Once I realized that we all have limitations, and that's your starting point if you want it to be, but it's also can be the accepting of where you are. I mean, who says you got to be a great singer or have a perfect body or you be a A+ student? Who? That's society. What are your limitations, and what do you believe? Because you set the boundaries yourself.
And that's what a limitation is. It's a boundary.
It's a boundary.
It is your own ego stopping you from doing whatever you want. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. It is your own ego.
If you want to do it, yes. You can break the boundary just by doing it. Do something scary. Yes. I mean, take on a new task.
It is.
And you'd be surprised.
You don't realize, though, like, people don't realize that, our limitations are everywhere in relationships, in our way of thinking, in the job we're doing. The moment you get those butterflies, it's because of a limitation. Another word for limitation is insecurity.
Yeah.
Because what is a limitation? Yes, I may have physical limitations, and you did bring up something where, yes, you got to know what you're capable of. If you have, a not such a great voice, and people told you, hey, and you want to be a singer, and da-da-da, well, maybe aren't meant to be a singer. Maybe you're meant to be a songwriter, or maybe you're meant to be something else.
Right, that's it. Mm-hmm.
So, but in the idea of self, and finding self, the only thing that we really have to look at is what are you limiting yourself because of what you're taught. Because what you are taught, religion, spirituality, these ideas of out there, this, all these other things, your emotions, are all limitations of why you can't find yourself.
Right.
Down to everything.
Good point. And it's also your beliefs, like they say, limited beliefs.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, that's what I was just saying. Yeah,
I cannot speak very well. And there are points where, like, physiology or things could really be true. You couldn't speak very well. But there's lots of times it's just you were conditioned that way. You had a bad experience one time. Oh, you'll never be able to sing. You sound, sit down and eat your dinner or something.
Yeah. And there's some people, and there are some people that have talent at a lot of things. And they will put you down because there's jealous. And you have to know the limitation of the mind. And so what I mean by that is the limitation of mind of what...
limitation of the mind.
Yeah, because what are the people really saying to you? Most people hear something, they take it as face value. I've been told my whole life that I'm never going to amount to anything, that I'm not good enough, that, now even that after the accident, I gained weight, I'm not the same softball player, da-da-da-da-da, I should quit, I should retire, there's younger girls, and every single day, because I know who I am and I know what I'm capable of, I do know that my hip doesn't do the same things as it used to, so I don't try to dive on the field anymore, or,
That's the limitation, but at the same time, it's not the breaking point of not doing it.
Yes.
That's
correct.
Right.
Correct.
In other words, that can be the obstacle that you overcome, or it could be the acceptance of saying, I'm okay, I played softball, I'll do something else. This is an opportunity to be a coach, or something like that. So sometimes the greatest challenge or the limitation that comes along could be the doorway into another thing, another chapter of your life.
Yes, because that's what it is. Like, I know I'm not going to be jumping at the fences anymore and running into the fences anymore because I have a hip injury. But I do know I can still catch, I can still track down a ball, I can still hit, I can still run faster than 90% of the girls out there and even a lot of the guys. And so... my limitations say, well, I'm a little older, I'm a little banged up, so I'm not going to, abuse my body, but that doesn't mean that I can't still do what I can't do. And so, because I understand who I am, and so, but limitations, when we bring it into ourselves, we don't just mean physical activities, we also mean mental, emotional activities. So, if you're always angry, if you're always insecure, if you're always full of doubt, what about people who are full of doubt?
Right.
That's them saying, because somewhere in your world you were taught that.
Yeah, and the whole world is kind of that way. Like,
it is. Everyone's that way.
You need something. What do you need to be happy, or make your people in your life be happy, because they're not.
Yeah.
They need to be fixed. They need to buy something. And then you'll feel good. Or you get this new car, then you'll feel good. Or you buy this Christmas gift, or give this, or receive this gift, then everything's okay.
That's how we show our love nowadays. and still, like I said last week, I told my mom this today because she's Catholic, she celebrates Christmas, and I said, Mom, I really, because she was so stressed out today. She was like, oh, I got, there's all these people driving around and all this, everything's packed, Jewel's packed, the mall's packed, and even right across the street, we live across the street from the mall, and that's crazy. And I said, you know what, I wonder if Christmas would be as popular, because no other holiday is popular but the one that gives gifts. The one that's material,
yeah, because our whole society on the West, well, now the world's changed. It's based on consumption.
It is.
Even
we are all
the most remote little villages now. It's true with the cell phones and the internet. Everybody wants like the greatest T-shirt, shoes, cell phone, and they're primitive areas. They're learning that, and they're killing each other over it sometimes. So it's funny how things work.
It is. And it's okay to want nice stuff, but when you want nice stuff and you're after it and you're always after trying to be flashy and being the salesperson and being all this stuff, it's because you're so far away from who you are, because the truth of the matter is you don't need this stuff.
That goes back, not to interrupt, but remember our first show we came up with, are you a consumer?
I don't remember yesterday.
The first show.
Are you a
consumer or a creator?
Yeah.
So to switch this consumption thing that you're doing with your life, if you could find out what is your gift, why are you here? What is it that you really like to do? Where's your passion? Like in the background, if you had the ideal life, like if you were to write a movie or be a great author or be a great, coach or whatever. What is your passion? What is it that you like? That's where you start.
But that doesn't necessarily mean. But see, that's where I think people get confused, because I'm a softball player. That doesn't mean that's who I am, and that doesn't help me find myself.
But
that's where people get confused.
Right. But you'll have compassion because you're building something. You're creating yourself into the world. You're sharing yourself. You're giving your gift.
Yeah, but a lot of people, like I'm in athletics, and so many people talk down to people and treat people like crap because they can hit a ball over the fence. I see it at Okehili here all the time. Everyone who hits a home run thinks that they're the best thing since sliced bread, and you could tell that if someone doesn't, if someone else can't keep up with them, well then I don't even want to talk to them, and they're not even going to be on my team because they just suck and they're not. And you could tell that a lot of people, and so I really see that's where I'm going to have to really disagree with you on that, because because people value themselves by what they do, and that doesn't tell you who you are.
Okay, but I mean to have a compassionate self, instead of like just working so that you can buy stuff, or building income so that you can do more things, more money, buying stuff. Maybe traveling is good, but
traveling is good. But again, like with Caleb traveled because he thought he was going to find himself, and I was teaching him that you don't have to travel to find yourself. I live here in this house. Right. This house is my cave that some Buddhist monk would go up in a cave and sit there. This is my house. Nobody but James and Caleb comes to my house, and and this is where I do all my work. I don't need to travel to Bali and India and Japan or anything to find who I am.
What I mean is, like, to have self-compassion, you should be doing what you like.
Yeah, I agree there.
That's what I'm trying to say. That's really what I meant. Like,
I thought you meant like
your passion.
Like if you find a passion that you're good at, then become that, and you can find yourself, and that never follows. Yeah, that never follows.
Well, do what you like versus what you think society wants you to do.
That's true. It'll make
do what you like.
It'll make you happier, but it won't help you find yourself.
Yourself is already here. You just got to look at it and see it that it's already here. It's right in front of you.
Because you being in a programmer doesn't make you James McClure.
Right.
You doing this show doesn't make you James McClure. Just like me doing this show doesn't make me Miss Raina. Me playing softball doesn't make me Miss Raina. What makes me Miss Raina is the choices I make every single day and how I treat people and how I treat myself, because I know who I am.
Right, and even the name is a man-made thing. Your name is also a label.
Yeah.
So, I mean, once you sort of figure it all out that we're all the same in that sense, we're all pretty much equal, it can actually become easier.
And
Because you don't have to be so rigid on the labels.
Yeah. Well, that's what it's all about, though. And that's what I was saying, is because if I say, well, I'm the VP at, D'Amico Marketing, then I'm somebody, I got this flashy code, I got the, and we start stepping back further from ourselves because we're associating, I'm this person, when you're not your job. You're not what you play, you're not, and we confuse that. And the younger the soul, the more it grasps on to religion, ideas of spirituality, the more it grasps onto anything. The moment you're like, oh, this is me, and I won't bend, and the moment someone tries to tell me otherwise, I get offended. It shows that the youth, the experience of the soul, because the soul, the older you get, the more you'll start to try to find yourself. And one day soon, we're gonna, I know I've done for you people who have been on the show before, have heard the domes and stuff, but I want to go over them, especially having James here too. But you can tell the youth of this stuff. So also when you talk about limitation, maybe know your limitation as far as your spiritual growth too, because there are certain things that you're just not going to understand based on where you're at in your evolution.
And there may be a reason. I'm not saying this is secret knowledge, but there's things out there that are hidden, that aren't part of the mainstream, and there's a reason for that. And I really think there's an agenda going on.
Oh, there is.
And you can read all the self-help books, and you may not even find some of this stuff.
I'm going to tell you, be honest with you guys, and I never will put down anybody, but stop the self-help books, really. They're garbage. A lot of it's propaganda. A lot of it just repeats, tells you the same stuff. Oh, love yourself, do this, do that. It tells you the same stuff. Yeah. And I've never met anyone who's actually truly benefited from self-help. All they do is they see something, they hear it so many times, they repeat it as like it's truth, and it's not, because a lot of what we hear in self-help and even spiritual books, like I scratch my head and say, wow, this is actually a number one seller, because this is teaching people to be the victim. This is teaching people to be judgmental. This is teaching people, and it sounds good because it's in a book and it's wrapped up in a pretty pink bow with a guy smiling or a girl smiling on it, but a lot of it is propaganda.
And they still have this thing of, okay, it's completely one or the other. Have you ever thought maybe it's both?
Absolutely.
It's both good and bad. Your life is both good and bad.
Yeah.
Your life is both happy and sad. You're confused, but you're at peace. I mean,
well, you have to have
it's never complete.
Turmoil.
Right.
You have to have turmoil in order to understand who you are, because think about every time you went through something in life.
Yeah.
The harder the lesson, the more you grew, right? The more you understood who you were. Things that you don't understand, you don't have value to it. It's the same as if you don't pay for something, you don't find value in it because you didn't work for it.
Right. And the fact that it's in your life, it has a value, and you can't push it or fight it or control it. You can only, I would say, become part of it or let it become part of you. Yeah. Just like all the people you see. Why are you, like, if you're driving down the road and the traffic is bad or whatever, or you're in a crowded place or people are arguing or someone's being real difficult, like, what part of you is making you feel like, you need to, like, react and fight back?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying is we're chasing that idea of the ego, and we're chasing the idea that these things bring us something. You being on the winning side or the right side in politics doesn't bring you anything in your life. You being on the right side or the winning side in religion or spirituality doesn't bring you anything in life. In fact, all that stuff does is take you further away from yourself, because you're associating this idea with who you are. There's no external idea out there that is who you are. It's just a fact. And that's why people who are the happiest people in the world don't follow any form. I don't follow any form of religion. or spirituality. I've been through them all. I studied Catholicism, Christianity, Buddhism, paganism, witchcraft. I've studied Hinduism. I've studied them all. and I've taken little bits and pieces here and there, but I've realized there's so many limitations in everything, even the most enlightened thing, because it tells you, Buddhism says, well, hey, you only live 10,000 lives and you got to do all this stuff. And it's a lot of pain and suffering, which is somewhat true, but there's a lot of limitations in what they teach. And same with Christianity, same with witchcraft, same with paganism, same with Druidism, same with Hinduism. And so these ideas of these limitations are these ideas that you're holding on to are probably the things that are keeping you from yourself. And right. I know for some of you, you're going to get riled up right now. And some of you are going to say, well, my faith, my spirituality has made me who I am. Yes and no. Yes, because you believe that it made you something, but it's the very same belief that's stopping you from going further.
Wow, that's a good one. Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Yeah, because somebody will have all that, and then they're still not there.
Yeah,
and then they'll do something in their life, and you're like, why did that? How could that person do all this?
Yeah,
it's because they weren't complete.
No,
they didn't know themselves.
No, because they're relying on something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something that's external. The self is, the world is not. We were talking about this the other day, like the inside versus the outside.
Yeah.
It's kind of like not. It just is. It's both.
Yeah.
It's just how are you viewing it,
I can't wait. I wish, and I know I came here during this time period for a reason, but I wish, and I'll probably come back again but I can't wait for that time period where humanity really discovers itself. Like really realizes that everything that we believe in right now is totally garbage, totally outdated, totally stopping us from finding ourselves, and make that huge evolutionary jump to expansion. And I'm telling you, the reason why I say expansion, because we don't understand what humanity is yet. We think we do. We think we have all the answers, but we don't understand humanity expansion yet.
That's a good point.
And when humanity expansion, and your soul will know this word later on, when humanity expansion comes in, it's a totally different ballgame.
I feel like there's a lot going on in this lifetime, like
there is,
the technology.
But it's just the start.
I know.
Just the start.
What I'm realizing is like we're just completely unlimited. We're children. We're just barely coming out the door right now.
Yes, we are.
I mean, we think we've seen it all and we've done it all and we've felt it all. It's like we're just now seeing the potential for complete beauty and greatness and creativity and love and all the good stuff that made us, the stuff that brought us here. We have the power to create that. That's yourself is that.
Yeah.
When your life is gone, your body is gone, and you're back at the source, you're going to be like, wow, I had everything when I was there. I just wasn't using it. Why was I taking myself so seriously? Why was I being so hard on others? Why was I so scared?
Yeah.
Why was I trying to control things?
Yeah, exactly.
Why was I putting myself separate from everybody and everything, from life and death?
Yeah.
And it's kind of the same. It just is.
Yeah.
What are you doing now? What are you thinking now? It's all right now.
Well, it always is.
Now.
It always is. There is no past. There is no future, and and that's what we were talking about even on a couple of shows ago. It's like we're so obsessed with the past and the future because we're so miserable in the present.
Right, we're fighting.
We really are.
We're missing it.
Yeah,
it's here. I mean, once you get that, I talk about this a lot. Is once you get the power of now, the book you're talking about self-help.
Yeah.
Well, this was only about that.
I've heard about that book.
It's just beautiful. It's almost like poetry. It's so dense that you can only read like 1 or 2 pages at a time. But once you get what the power of now is, it's completely liberating.
Yeah,
you can always return there.
It's true. I've never read the book, but I'll agree on that because that's what I'm always about. I'm always like, stop looking, and people get mad at me, even like, and they'll be like, no, but I need to worry about it. I'm like, no, you don't. I was like, all you like right now is now, and if I ask you in 5 seconds, what time is it, future, past, or now? You're gonna say now, and then in 5 seconds, it's always now.
So now,
and the past doesn't exist. 5 seconds ago doesn't exist anymore. 5 seconds from now doesn't exist yet. It's a fake idea.
It's your mind that says that it's not anything else but now, and the limitations are always, well, this happened, so therefore this will, the duality, when in reality it's singularity here and now. So you're really ultimately free. There's actually really nothing wrong with you, other than what you're your programming is saying.
Yes, exactly. And that's the thing. The number one thing, the first thing that I tell my students is this, is you have to unlearn everything that you've learned. And I'm going to teach you how to do that. And they look at me, what do you mean I have to unlearn everything? Everything that you've learned, you have to unlearn in order to find yourself. So that means you have to be willing to let go of all your belief systems, everything you think you know, everything you don't know, and actually start from scratch and say, okay, let's start from what I am. Not what I know, not what I do, not from that. What am I? Who am I?
Yeah.
And that's the sense. So you have to, not what people have told you, not what you think the law of attraction says or duality or whatever. Forget everything about that. What am I? Minus the world. Take away the world. Like if we could delete, like in a movie where like sometimes the movie scenes delete everything and the person just stand there. That's what I mean. Delete everything around you. And start from there, because don't say what your pastor said or what your spiritual teacher said, what this and that. Start to unlearn everything that you've learned and start with you.
Right, because that's the creation.
It is.
That's
the only
beginning.
Truth. That's the only truth.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Everything else is trying to find that.
Yeah, and it's not.
We can feel it. I mean, I believe that's the part that keeps us alive. It's in our body, but it returns. Because our body can't last forever, but who knows with technology, 30 or 40 years, 50 years.
Well, we're living longer now because of technology.
A lot of people, I mean, that's their whole goal, is to live long enough so they can have enough money to buy all this stuff, then get new parts, new brain, new face, have everything. It sounds like very expensive technology, lots of wars over these instant fixes.
Yes.
Big companies, big government,
Yes. Yeah, and really, people, you really have to have that compassion for yourself. You really have to allow yourself, even you have to be tolerable of yourself. You really have to understand that one of the hardest things to understand when finding yourself, and it's the most slap in the face that you'll ever get, is realizing you don't know as much as you think you do. Everyone wants to repeat what they think, what they've heard. Everyone wants to give advice, and 99% of the people out there giving advice don't know what they're talking about, and they're just passing down what they've heard. And they're so quick, because they just want to be somebody, that they're so quick to constantly give advice to make themselves look good, that they don't even realize that they're passing along horrible advice, and they're doing it for them, not you. So what I always suggest is this: realize that you don't know as much as you do, and probably don't know anything, because that's where you start. Like when a long time ago, I said, okay, I'm an ancient soul. I have all these years, I have all this experience, but you know what? I'm going to start from scratch. I don't know anything. Body, tell me. Tell me what I need to learn, because I've been taught all this stuff, and it's made my life crazy. It's made my life, hell. But now I'm going to start with me. And what does my body, what does my soul say to me? What does the light within say to me? And everything that I teach has been told by what my body has said. I've never read a book. I've never taken a spiritual class. I've never listened to anybody's advice. I've never heard any of that stuff. And everything that I teach and everything that I've done has come from self. And you have access to that. But you have to realize that you don't know as much as you think you do. You got to unlearn everything that you've been taught, and you have to have the compassion to say, you know what, I need to start here. This right here is worth it. This right here is everything I need.
Yeah. So is that, you mentioned the word domes, which
yes.
I've never heard that before, and that's got my curiosity going. Is that like the life that you're in right now?
No,
kind of,
yeah.
like
So
your family or your clan.
We'll go into this on another show, but in quick, domes. Everyone thinks that life is linear, and you're going from a starting point of when you're first given birth by a god or the universe, and then you're going to this finish line, which is enlightenment. Wrong. There's domes, and it's in a circle, and there's about 9 to 10 domes. And so what they're doing is you start at a point, and you have so many lives in each dome, and you bounce from dome to dome, and then once you get to a certain point, you start integrating back and forth to certain domes. And the further you grow, the further around in the circle you go, you start bouncing back and forth and pulling different lives and pulling different experiences back and forth. And so you will start to experience all these different things as well. And so it's not like this line where it's a race to finish alignment, because once you reach to a certain point, you're going to realize that you're just going back around and jumping from place to place and this and that, because the soul understands that there's no finish line, there's no stopping, there's no starting, there's no stopping. Everything in life is circular. And that's the hardest thing to understand, is that it's a circle instead of a straight line. I know.
I see where you come from.
And we'll get into domes. We'll get into domes, I know, because that's like a 3-topic show.
And I bet you they're joined by sacred geometry, but we'll
yeah,
talk about
kind
that
of. Yeah,
sacred
kind of.
geometry.
Yeah,
Or something.
kind of. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I never put it that way, but yeah, now that I think about it. But you pull things, and that's why limited consciousness comes in. We'll talk about that on the show too. But all these limitations, your limitation may be due to your limited consciousness. If you're only in certain domes, you won't reach this dome because you haven't gone through these domes yet to understand that. You haven't had those experiences. It's similar to, if you're in 4th grade and you see your cousin who's a freshman in college and you see their books, you'll never understand their books or what they're telling you because you haven't had all those grades before. And so, but once you've had those grades, you can always bounce back and forth. And that's kind of like the simplest terms that I can give to people who really don't, because it's
evolution in a way.
It is.
You're evolving, but through different life experiences.
But you're still pulling. And the older you get, the tougher you are. Like, people look at me and they say, "Oh my God, Miss Raina, you go through so much." But the reason why I go through so much is because it helps me understand me, and it helps me understand you.
Yeah.
Because if I don't understand me, I can't understand anybody of you. How can I help someone and give someone advice if I don't understand what's going on if I haven't had that experience?
Right, exactly.
So yes, we go through, ancient souls
we know that.
go through chaos. And everyone judges us, and there's very few of us out there. So before you start saying, "Oh, well, I'm an ancient soul and an old soul," and that's a sign of a younger soul when you start saying that. But when you start doing that, that's when when you get to a certain point, it becomes, your life is just nothing but like bam, 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 bam. And it's like no let up. And the reason why is that because you are strong enough to understand that, and you have that depth to do that. So
it's also non-attachment to these things.
Yes.
It's, pick yourself up and go from there.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Non-attachment.
Absolutely. So, all right, we're out of time.
Oh.
How about that?
Oh,
we've been talking so.
We didn't get to say goodnight.
No, we got like a minute. We got a minute.
Okay,
but I meant like we're out of time for the show. So
I need to pay attention to the timer.
Yeah, no, I always do. I'm always looking.
It goes fast.
It does. Well, we're having a good time.
It's Christmas Eve, so.
Yeah, for those of you celebrating Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas. For those of you who celebrate Yule, Merry Yule, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, Happy Bubble Land, if that's where you're at, Bubble Land, whatever you celebrate, it's all about you. So, but all right, guys, that is our show for tonight. I'm not sure what we're doing next week because I forgot to write it down. That's my bad. It's been a crazy and wonderful day as always. But yeah, guys, if I wanted to wish you guys a happy holidays. What about you, James? You want to wish them happy holidays?
Yeah, because we'll probably have to say that, and then next time we'll say Happy New Year's. So.
Oh, yeah. Next Tuesday is New Year's Eve.
And it's also the end of the decade.
So we might do a show on Monday or Thursday. I don't know how we're going to do it, but we probably won't do it on New Year's Eve because I'm sure you probably have plans. I don't go out much anymore, but we might do it on Monday or Thursday of that next week. We probably won't do it on New Year's Eve or New Year's Day. So
Right. Okay.
So, but all right, guys, pay attention to our social media, Facebook, and all sorts of good stuff. And always remember to believe in yourself, and it's not our abilities or our talents that make us who we are, but it is our choices. Thank you, and have a wonderful night.
Good night.